Hello friends, welcome to my channel. This is Charan. In this video, I will show you in Python using Django web framework how to get the last or newly inserted ID. Now let's enter the new record here, Rahul. Get last row ID. See, the last or newly inserted ID is 6. Let's check, browse. So here we got the output. The ID is 6 and the username is Rahul. That's it. If you are a first time visitor to my channel, please subscribe to get the latest updates. Before writing the coding part in Python, first we'll create a new table in phpmyadmin database, which is MySQL server. I want to create a new table in this sample DB database. Let's browse the database. Right now in this database contains around 43 tables. Let's create a new table. Click SQL tab. Let's write the query to create a table. Create table. The table I'm adding, insert new ID is my table name. Let's add the column names, ID, integer type, primary, I'm adding primary key, and auto increment column. This is the auto increment column, comma, and the next one is a uname, varchar, the data type is, give the size 100. Just for the demo purpose, I'm adding only 2 columns, ID and uname. Click go to create this table, and here we got a message that table has been created successfully. Let's check the table in this database, sample DB. The table name is insert new ID, select that one. And here we got the results of this newly created table, insert new ID. Right now this table contains 0 rows. So let's write the coding part in Python Django web framework to insert records into this database, and we get the ID of the employee record on the browser. Before creating a project in Django web framework, first we'll create a new folder in this local drive, D drive. Right click the mouse, select new, click folder. Let's give the folder name is last row ID is my project name. It's a folder name, sorry, it's a folder name. Let's browse this folder. Right now this folder is empty. Now in this folder I'm creating a new Django application. I'm using Visual Studio Code to write the Python programming. First we'll add the folder we have created. Open file, open folder, the folder we have created in the D drive, and the folder name is last row ID. Let's select that one, select folder, and here we got our last row ID is added to our Explorer panel. Let's close this welcome page. Right now this folder contains empty. Let me expand again. Now let's create a new Python Django project in this folder. To create a project, open view, go to terminal. So the terminal is actually command prompt. So notice in the command prompt it's showing, the path showing is a last row ID, which is our folder name, the D drive. To create a project in Django, Django-admin start project, do the project name is last ID is my project name, enter, and see here the project has been created successfully. Let me expand this project application. Inside this project there is a subfolder called last ID and one manage.py. Let me expand this subfolder also. So here we got some Python files, the settings.py, urls.py. All these Python files has been added automatically when I created this start project last ID application, the project name is. Now after creating this project, we'll add a new folder called templates for our HTML pages. So right click the project name, click new folder. The folder name I'm giving templates. Now in this templates I'm adding the HTML5 pages. Right click the templates folder, click new file. The file name I'm adding index.html. And here we got our index.html page. Now inside this HTML page, let's close this one. Now inside this HTML page, let's write the coding part, HTML code. Doc type HTML, I'm closing the HTML tag. Inside this HTML, I'm adding the header section. In the header section, I'm adding the title. The title is get last ID. After the header section, I'm adding the body tag. Inside this body, I'm adding the header sections h1, how to get the last or newly inserted ID using h3 tags in Python, Django web framework. After the header tags, I'm adding the horizontal line. Now after the horizontal line, I'm adding the form tag. Inside this form tag, let's add the method is equals to post. So we are posting the data to save the record. So the method form method is equals to post. After that, I'm adding the username. In our table, we have two columns, user ID and username. The UID column, the ID column is the auto generate column, so I'm not adding here. The second one is the username only. So username, I'm adding the text box element, input type is equals to text, and I'm adding the placeholder, enter username, and the last one I'm adding the name attribute. In this name attribute, I'm adding the username. You can add anything here, but I'm adding the column name. After that, I'm adding the simple submit button control. Input type is equals to submit. The value of the button control I'm adding here is get last row ID is the button control value. After that, I'm adding a horizontal line. So let's save this file, this HTML file. After that, we'll add the models Python file into a project. I'm adding the subfolder, the models page. Right click the subfolder last ID, click new file, add the file name is a models.py, and here we got the models.py page. Now in this models.py, I am creating a class to define the properties and our table name. So before that, we have to import the class Django.db import models. Now let's define a class a new ID. In this ID, I'm adding models.model, and only M is capital. After that, all the characters are small. Column. Now in this class, I'm defining the properties. In our table, we have two columns, ID and username. ID, I'm not adding the property because it's an auto generate column, so I'm adding this username property. Let's copy this column name uname, paste here is equals to models dot char field, the data type is max underscore length, LGTH, length is equals to 100. So after adding the property, next we'll add our table. So for that, again I'm adding a new class called method class colon. In this method class I'm adding my table name db underscore table. The database table is equals to, between single quotes, I'm adding insert new id, paste here. That's it. Let's save this file, save all. Now we require the views page to write the logic. Right click the last id, the subfolder, click new file, the file name is views.py, enter, and here we got the views.py page. Now in this views.py, first we import the render class. So Django dot shortcuts import render. This render class to browses index.html pages. Now we require the models page also. From the models page is in our project last id. So last id dot models. In this models I'm importing, from this models I'm importing the class new id. Copy this class name and paste here. Now after that, let's define the function. Get new id is a function name. Let's add the request here. I'm requesting from this function, first condition, if request dot method double equals to post. So first when we post the data, next condition, if request dot, so what data we are posting? The data posting from this text box control, the views request dot post dot get method. In this get method I'm adding and this uname. Copy this one and paste here. Again add colon. Now let's define post is equals to, post is an object to save the data. So we are getting the data from this new id class. New id post dot, let's define the properties from this class new id. We have one property called uname. Let's add that one. Uname is equals to request dot post dot, post is capital, request dot post dot get method, between single quotes I'm adding uname. Just add this if condition here. After we enter the values, we'll save the data. Post dot using save method to save the value, username value. Then once the record has been saved successfully, I want to display the message. So to display the message, we require the messages class. So that messages class from Django dot contrib, so ntrib contrib import messages. Let's add this messages here. Messages dot success method. The success method takes the parameter, first one is a request, comma, between single quotes, the last or newly inserted id is colon, let's give some gap, plus I want to display the user ID message. That user ID, let's declare the variable UID is equals to this class name new ID dot, the class name contains our table name also, the insert new ID. So you get the objects from the tables, objects dot last method. The last method fetches the last record from the table. So let's add this UID here, UID. But this success method takes a string parameter, but here we are concatenating the user ID, which is an integer type. So we need to add string. Now the function return render, the return is not spelling it, return render request. I want to render this index.html page within single quotes. I'm adding index.html. The else part, write the else for the first if condition, else colon return. Instead of writing the same line, just copy and paste here. That's it. Let's save this file, the views page. After writing the logic in this views, now we need to configure our the page, index.html page. For that, open urls.py. Now in this urls.py, notice the URL patterns contains the default path, which is the admin. I don't require this path here. Just so I am commenting with the hash. So our path is between single quotes, which is a home page. I am not entering any value between the single quotes. The page is in the views page. The index.html is in the views page. So we need to import the views from dot import views. Now here I am adding the views dot in the views we have our function get new ID. Now in this function we have our index.html page. So let's define this in get new ID here. That's it. Let's save this file, save all. Now after that, the most important step is we need to configure our database connection string. So to configure our database connection string, we need to open the settings.py page. In the settings.py, the first one, we need to add our application name in the installed underscore apps. So our application name is between single quotes, the last ID, our project name, the last ID. After that, come to the bottom, we need to add the templates also. To render our index page, we need to add the base directory. So in the templates, in the directory section, os.path.join method. The join method takes two parameters. The first one is a base directory, base underscore dir, comma. I'm adding the templates. In this templates folder, we have our index.html. Now the last step is the databases. Notice in this databases, the default database is the SQLite 3. But our database is MySQL, which is the phpmyadmin database. So let's add the MySQL here, and the name, just delete this one. Here the name between the single quotes, I'm adding my database name. So our database name is a sample DB. Let's add that one, sample DB. Then Let's add the username. User, here the user is equals to root, comma, and the password, here the password I'm leaving blank because I don't have any password to log into my phpmyadmin database. If you have any password, please enter that one. Now the next attribute I'm adding between single quotes, the host. Our host name is a local host. After adding the path host, and the port number is, to get the port number of MySQL is this 3306. This is our port number between single quotes 3306, comma, and the last attributes I am adding options. Now in these options between curly braces, single quotes, init underscore command colon between double quotes, I am setting the SQL mode is equals to between single quotes, the SQL mode is strict underscore trans underscore tables. That's it. We have configured the database connection strings in this settings.py. Let's save this file. Save all. Now the final step, open index.html. Now in the form tag, I am adding one important token here, percentage CSRF underscore token. So this CSRF underscore token, the CSRF underscore token, it protects our data from the hackers when we are posting the data. So if you don't add this line, you'll get an error. After that, horizontal line, I want to display the message, this message, the last or newly inserted ID, and this message is getting from this messages class. So between curly braces, percentage, add the if condition, messages. Now let's close the if condition with the end if. Now inside this if condition I am adding for loop. Now again between percentage I am adding for, declaring a variable result in messages. Percentage, let's close the for loop and for. Now inside this for loop I am adding the bold tag. Let's give some style for this bold. Style is equals to color colon green. I want to display the color in green color. The message I am adding between double curly braces the result, this object name here. That's it. We have done the complete coding part. Let's save this project, save all. Now before run this project, in the command prompt, first we need to add this last ID to our folder, cd last ID, enter. Now after that we need to install MySQL client, pip install MySQL client, enter. See, here we got a message, the requirement already satisfied, which means the packages is installed successfully. Now let's run the server. To run the server, Python, we need to add this manage.py, then write the run server, enter. Oops, here we got some error. No attribute models. The models. Sorry, this one is a model. Sorry for that. Let's save this file again. I'm reloading the server. See, now we got no issues found in our project, and this is our web server URL. Control plus click, and here we got the output of the index.html, which is our default page. In this index.html, we have the header tags, how to get the last or newly inserted ID, and Python Django web framework. Below that, we have a text box control and one button control. Let's enter the username Charan. Now, before insert this record, let's check in our database table. Click browse. Right now, this table contains 0 rows. So let's insert this Charan details, get last row ID. See, here we got a message, the last or newly inserted ID is new ID object 1. This is our ID number. Don't worry about this new ID object, we'll fix that one. First, let's check this new ID is inserted or not. Click browse. See, here we got the ID Charan has been successfully inserted. So here displaying the new ID object, the ID between the parentheses. So I don't want to display this part, just I want to display only the ID only. So to fix that, first we'll remove this parentheses, switch back to the coding part, go to views page. First I am adding the Python slice technology here, between square brackets. First I am adding colon here. Before colon, the starting letters I want to slice the 11 characters is equals to colon -1. -1 is the last character. So let's save this file, save all. Now we'll check the output again. I'm reloading the browser. Now this time I'm adding the username Peter, get last row ID. See, here we got a message, still it's showing the T and parenthesis. Let's fix that one. Instead of 11 I'm adding 15. Let's save this file again, save all. Now we'll check the final output. I'm reloading the browser. Now this time I'm adding Ben, the username, get last row ID. Oops. Let's add here 13. Save this file. Enter. Now let's check the final output. I'm adding the record Jack, the username, get last row ID. So here we got the last or newly inserted ID is 4. Let's check the output. Browse. So here we got all the usernames. Let's insert another record. Still it's showing one parenthesis. So what I'm doing here, I'm adding one method here to remove the parenthesis. First let's import RE. After that RE dot sub method, or between single quotes, between square brackets, backward slash. I want to remove this parenthesis. Let's save this file, save all. Oops, here still we have to add here comma. I'm replacing with empty. Let's close this bracket here. Save the file, save all. So now we got no issues found. We'll check the final output. I'm reloading the browser. Let's check the final output. This time I'm adding Rani get last row ID. So now we got the clean output. The last or newly inserted ID is 5. Let's check the output, browse. We'll add another one. Let's do that autocomplete off here in the index.html. Autocomplete is off. Save this file, save all. So now we don't get any suggestions from this text box. So notice here I'm not getting any previous usernames here. Now let's enter the new record here, Rahul. Get last row ID. See, the last or newly inserted ID is 6. Let's check, browse. So here we got the output. The ID is 6 and the username is Rahul. That's it.